Hey guys, the Investing Panda here. Welcome to another episode. So today we're going to talk about on whether you should invest in Bitcoin and is this the right time to invest. So let's get started. To determine whether you should buy Bitcoin, first you need to understand what is Bitcoin and how does it work. According to bitcoin.org, Bitcoin is a consensus network that enables a new payment system and a completely digital money. It is the first decentralized peer-to-peer payment network that is powered by its users with no central authority or middleman. In layman's terms, Bitcoin is digital money that you can send directly to another person anywhere around the world at any time without any restrictions. And the best part of it is that you don't need a bank to do it. So who created Bitcoin? According to bitcoin.org, the first white paper came out in 2009 and authored by someone named Satoshi Nakamoto. This was the first white paper around Bitcoin, and it really gave you all the details on how to set up this system. Now, nobody really knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is. All we know is that it is an alias of someone, and this person wrote the white paper. But around the first or second years of the development and the start of the project, Satoshi Nakamoto basically disappeared and no one knows who he is or where he is. And I really think that he did this on purpose because he wanted to become anonymous so that Bitcoin didn't become him, so that he didn't become the ambassador or this figure for Bitcoin, but just by being anonymous, he allows Bitcoin to stand on its own 2 feet and to become a thing of its own, a thing of the people. This white paper became the first detailed plan of a bigger concept called cryptocurrency, which was first mentioned and described in 1998. And it basically suggests a new system for money that is no longer controlled by a central authority, but is governed by its users and governed by cryptography, or these very difficult algorithms that need to be solved by the computers. So there's no central authority governing this monetary system, and it's basically just governed by its users, and it's completely decentralized. So this removal of the power of the central authority is what really got everybody excited, and it has really gotten a lot of people behind Bitcoin. So how does Bitcoin work? So you can buy Bitcoin from multiple exchanges with almost any major currency, like the euro, dollars, etc. You store your Bitcoins in something called a digital wallet, and you keep that digital wallet either in your mobile device or in your computer. When you send money to someone, you create a transaction. That transaction needs to be validated before being posted to the blockchain. This is done by individuals called miners. Miners verify that every transaction is valid before posting it on the public ledger or the blockchain. They do so by utilizing supercomputers that process and solve these very complex algorithms, which once solved, validates and adds the new block onto the chain, and miners get compensated with newly generated Bitcoins as they solve it. All transactions get posted on the blockchain, and the blockchain exists in multiple computers around the network. That is done to protect the integrity and the accuracy of the blockchain. Therefore, let's say you have 10 different ledgers, or 10 copies of the same ledger. One of them gets inappropriately manipulated or changed. Well, you have 9 others that have the correct information. And in a process called consensus, the network will validate that, okay, these are the right details and this blockchain now is corrupted, and it will remove it from the network. Therefore, it's very, very hard to fudge the numbers or to manipulate or hack into it, because blockchain is decentralized and a copy exists in multiple computers. So a hacker would have to have tons of resources, know where all the blockchains exist, and make the changes at the same time in those multiple computers, and as you can see, that would be very hard to do. So the blockchain as a technology is a fantastic technology and a fantastic way of keeping documentation, of accounting the transactions and the balances that each person has. Let's talk about the price of Bitcoin. So the price of Bitcoin has surged tremendously over the last few years. And just a year ago, the price of Bitcoin has gone up more than 760%. That means that if you would have bought $1,000 worth of Bitcoin a year ago, you would have $8,600 right now. The last time Bitcoin experienced a surge like this was back in 2017 when it hit all-time highs of about $19,700, all the way from 998, which is an 1,800% surge. But after these all-time highs, Bitcoin fell all the way down to $3,000 from its all-time highs of $19,000. But unlike 2017, things feel different now. Price, although volatile, still feels more stable than it was in 2017. Also, the movement behind the price surge was mainly through retail investors experiencing a case of FOMO, or fear of missing out, and a lot of media attention. So I don't think that back in 2017, the general public didn't really know what Bitcoin was or to trust it. But a lot of people seeing the huge surge didn't want to miss out on it. So everybody got on, piled on, and you have this exuberance curve and it just goes straight up, and then the bubble basically pops and it goes all the way down to $3,000. And I think that that's the reason why we saw that in 2017. But things are different now. Lately you've seen a lot of articles and a lot of noise around institutions actually backing Bitcoin. For example, Grayscale, a Bitcoin trust, went from holding $2 billion worth of Bitcoin to $20 billion in assets under management. MicroStrategy, an enterprise analytics software, bought more than $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. And Tesla bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin and announced plans to accept it as payment in the near future. So things are different today than they were back in 2017. Today you have the backing of multiple institutions investing in buying Bitcoin and working towards a future where they'll be able to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment for their products or services. Also, public sentiment is different. Public sentiment has become more positive towards Bitcoin, where in the past, Bitcoin was just a method of payment used in the dark web for illegal activities or illegal substances. Now, people are starting to understand what Bitcoin and blockchain is all about and actual utilities in the real world. People are even talking about Bitcoin as being the digital gold, meaning a store of value for your money, whereas central governments all around the world just keep printing and printing money, devaluing that currency. Bitcoin only exists in a finite amount. Although Bitcoin will still be mined for the foreseeable future, Bitcoin is programmed so that only 21.4 million Bitcoin can exist. Once the last Bitcoin to reach 21.4 million is mined, that is it. More Bitcoin cannot be created. Therefore, because there's only a finite supply of Bitcoin, the price stabilizes or the price can keep going up. So like gold, Bitcoin can provide a good place to park your money to protect yourself against this crazy money printing done by central governments all around the world, or to protect yourself against inflation. So should you buy Bitcoin? I think that Bitcoin is in its very early stages as a form of payment as well as being a store of value. Even though the price has gone up tremendously, I think we're still in the very early stages of Bitcoin and there's a lot of room to grow, both as a form of payment as well as a store of value. As a form of payment, I think that Bitcoin will see it be adopted and used by more and more companies as the blockchain technology matures and as more and more companies start to implement that. So I think that we'll see the normal methods of payment as well as Bitcoin. I don't think personally that we'll ever see Bitcoin be the sole one currency of the world where everybody is using Bitcoin and cannot use anything else. But I do see Bitcoin growing and becoming a more mature form of payment and a significant form of payment around the world. So even if Bitcoin doesn't grow to become the one and only form of payment, Bitcoin still has a long way to go, and we're still in the very early stages of Bitcoin being adopted as a method of payment. So from that perspective, there's still room for the price of Bitcoin to go up. Now, as a store of value, absolutely, I think that we're also in the very early stages as well, as the majority of people don't own Bitcoin yet. It's mostly very wealthy people, or again, institutions or trusts that have bought the majority of Bitcoin, but the everyday person, the average Joe, has not yet ventured in, as they may not really understand what Bitcoin is yet fully, or may not fully trust it, as it has not been ingrained in everyday life. However, I think that this is going to change with time. I think that people are going to see that the value that Bitcoin brings, again, continue to learn in its utility, and as the technology, the underlying technology of Bitcoin blockchain continues to mature, we'll see that more and more people will start to venture in and dabble into Bitcoin. So that is also fantastic for the price, because even if every portfolio of every person around the world owns 2, 3, or 5% of Bitcoin, then that would be fantastic for the price of Bitcoin, and the price is going to skyrocket in the future. Now, there's some real challenges when we're talking about Bitcoin. One of the major challenges that I see and risks is governments banning the use of Bitcoin. So we already started to see that India is moving towards banning Bitcoin and penalizing miners and traders of Bitcoin. And we could see that as a domino effect in the rest of the world, where China and maybe other countries in the world also start banning Bitcoin, and obviously that would be bad for the price of Bitcoin as well. And if you don't think the governments in the West, like the US, would do something like that, let me take you back to 1933, when Executive Order 6102 was signed, which basically it confiscated the gold from every single American, and it made it illegal to trade or possess gold. So all of the gold was taken away from the American citizens and taken into the government and put into Fort Knox. Now, what the government did with that gold was to sell it, and basically they ended up running out of it. But that order was then reversed in 1974, but that was like 40 years later. So my whole point is that the banning of Bitcoin could happen anywhere around the world, not just India or China or some other country in the East, but it could also happen in Europe or even here in the United States. The second challenge I see with the adoption of Bitcoin, especially as a method of payment, is its transaction processing time. Right now that number is about 7 transactions per second. And when you compare that with the credit cards like Visa, for example, Visa is able to process 1,700 transactions per second, which is a huge difference between the 7 that Bitcoin's blockchain can process. And that's with a normal network that is not experiencing high capacity. So that is a challenge that Bitcoin and Bitcoin developers and community, they're aware of it, and they're working towards changing the code and fixing the code so that it can process transactions more quickly, but it may not never get to the same speed as Visa, for example. But again, that it may not need to grow, but I think that it definitely needs to improve from 7 transactions, especially if Bitcoin's going to be adopted worldwide. Now, the last question that I want to address is whether right now is a good time to buy Bitcoin. Should you buy today? Should you buy right now? So to answer that question, I'm going to show you a couple of charts. So let's go take a look at them. So the first chart, this is the weekly price chart for Bitcoin. So as you can see in the chart, Bitcoin has had a parabolical rise in the last year or so, all the way up to where it stands, which is about 57, 59,000. So you can see that the price has been edging or very close to the top band of the Bollinger Bands. That means that the price of Bitcoin has gone up hard, it has gone up fast with a lot of strength and momentum
but it could also indicate that the price is overextended and it may be due for a pullback sometime soon. Now, if you look at other technical indicators down below the chart, like the RSI and the stochastics, the RSI level is currently above 70, which usually indicates that it is overpriced, and the stochastics is above 80, which also indicates it is overpriced. So putting the three technical indicators together, it's telling me that there is a high chance, a high risk that Bitcoin price is due for a pullback, and a significant pullback sometime soon. Maybe it'll do another push. And actually, I think that it does have one more breath, and I think it'll try to hit 70, 71,000 and before it pulls back. But even if it does that, I think that it's very, very close to its temporary top, and that it is due for a pullback. And I will be waiting very patiently for that pullback to buy some Bitcoin. I want to buy when the asset is low, when the price is cheaper, when something is on sale. And that's sort of my investment philosophy. So right now what I'm doing is I'm holding on tight to some cash, reserved to buy some Bitcoin, also some Ethereum, and when the prices go down, but they're near all-time highs, and I really don't want to buy it just now, not just yet. Now, the second chart that I want us to look at is the rainbow chart. So the rainbow chart is a logarithmic chart that measures Bitcoin's price using a rainbow, where each color of the rainbow represents a different price level, and each price level suggests what to do, like buy, hold, or sell. So as you can see in the chart, Bitcoin is in the "is this a bubble" stage. So this stage is followed by FOMO intensifies and then sell. Seriously, sell. So as I'm looking at this chart, it just looks like, again, it's just confirming what we saw in the first price chart, that Bitcoin may have overextended itself and it may be due for a pullback. But again, maybe not before it hits that 70,000 mark. I don't see any indicators right now that tell me that I should buy right now. I think I'm going to wait to see what happens, let the price movements develop. Again, it may kick up higher to 70, 71, or maybe even 80 before it comes back down. Maybe just keeps going higher because Bitcoin is a beast like that. But I'm gonna wait patiently. I'm gonna have some cash reserved. Patience is a virtue when it comes to investing. When you get things for cheaper, you can buy more of it and your returns will be higher. So I'm just gonna sit on the sidelines on this one right now until Bitcoin experiences a pullback. So in conclusion, Bitcoin is a decentralized digital coin that can be used as a store of value or as a form of payment. Bitcoin is still in the very early stages of its life cycle, and in its adoption as a store of value and a form of payment. Lately, we're seeing more and more institutions and companies start to invest more in Bitcoin, and we're seeing more public trust as well, familiarizing themselves with Bitcoin, and we see Bitcoin being bought and held by more citizens around the world. Bitcoin has a lot of potential, but it also has some risks and challenges ahead of itself. So for one, we know that governments may ban Bitcoin completely, making Bitcoin useless. We already see signs of it with India starting and working to ban Bitcoin and penalize miners and traders. Now, this may be the first domino that causes the effect and causes other countries to start banning Bitcoin as well. So that is one real risk that we need to pay attention to. The second challenge with Bitcoin is around its adoption as a form of payment. Currently, Bitcoin code and blockchain can only process 7 transactions per second as compared to Visa, which can process 1,700 transactions per second. That is a huge difference. But as we saw earlier, Bitcoin doesn't have to grow to the size of Visa for its value to continue to go up. Now, if you decide to invest in Bitcoin, it may be prudent to wait a little while to see what the price does, as the weekly chart with the Bollinger Bands, the RSI, and the stochastics
showed us that the price may be a little overextended and due for a pullback in the near future. So it may be prudent to keep your cash aside, wait to see what happens, wait for a pullback, and then pounce on it with everything that you have. Now, again, when you're investing in Bitcoin, please remember that all of the things that we're talking about and Bitcoin becoming a method of payment, its adoption as a store of value, all of these things are speculative and they carry a higher risk. And that is the reason why, if they materialize, they also carry a higher return. So although the future does seem bright for Bitcoin, and I personally think that it is bright, and I will be investing in Bitcoin in the near future, I won't be putting all of my nest eggs into it. I'm not going to be putting all of my money into it, crossing my fingers and hoping that I will become a millionaire, because that would be foolish in my opinion, as there is a very high risk that I may lose my capital. So I'm going to do it with money that I have set aside that I'm going to use for speculative purposes, like buying Bitcoin. So please be responsible. I think that if you have credit card debt, if you have a car payment, if you have student loans, it's much more advisable for you to use the money that you have now, pay off those debts. Pay off your credit card debt that has a huge interest rate. Pay off that student loan which accumulates interest rate like there's no tomorrow. Pay off all of your debts, pay off that car, and then once you're free from that, with the exception of your mortgage of course, then think about investing and investing hard. Because you'll realize that as you pay off those debts, you're going to have more cash flow coming in, because you no longer have that money going to other companies and to other people. So as your cash flow increases from paying down your debts, you'll be able to use that cash to start investing in IRA, 401k, in Bitcoin, other traditional stocks, etc. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that this was educational and informational for you. Please let me know in the comments below what you think and what are you doing. What do you think of Bitcoin? Do you agree with me, disagree? I'd love to hear your opinion. I think that everybody can learn. I'm definitely learning more and more. So I would love to hear your opinion, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Also, if there are any other video ideas that you have, or there's anything that you would like me to present on, maybe like Ethereum or something else, please let me know in the comments below. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys. Cut that as well. Buy Bitcoin. Buy Bitcoin.